Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 236 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on November 5th, 2024. How are all you wonderful folks doing on this fine fall day? Yeah, I'm doing pretty well myself. Hope you're doing well. I just finished a wonderful powerlifting workout. Rehab is going amazingly well, actually. Just want to update you on that. The human body is so resilient. Yeah, and when you really take care of it, boy howdy, man, that's rewarding. That good feeling. It's such a great feeling. Also, you may know it's election day in the United States today. I'm sure all of you have performed your civic duty as you are able. Greatest country in the world. So that's a great thing to be able to do. Thank my lucky stars regularly that I'm able to do that. So with regard to some updates for you folks on the research, I took a short break this week on publications since we published 7 white papers in October. We figured we earned a little bit of a break at least. And that actually, just so you know, in all seriousness, it did allow us to catch up on some testing and more analysis. There's only so many hours in the day. And it also did let us catch a little bit of a breather for a day or two. And those little breathers don't sound like a lot when it's only a day or 2 days, but man, it actually makes a big difference. So I like those little recharges. So today, we're going to have a more relaxing show, I think. I was able to put a bunch of rounds through the Walther PPK SD. In the 7.65 millimeter Browning, the 32 ACP cartridge that I was really excited about that Bond gun, right? But, unfortunately, there are some significant issues to speak with you today about that firearm. And so I did want to update you on that. I think I owe you that since I kind of brought it up, right? And this is a show about silencers, and so this is a very relevant topic. So I want to speak with you about that. I think it's very relevant to a lot of you looking to get into that host, right? I mean, for me, it was a bucket list host. I'm sure for a lot of you people it is too, and it's not a cheap purchase, right? It's like $1,000, So it's not like it's not a high point, right? So we'll talk about that, and then after that, we're going to get into listener questions. Yeah, so I think that's always fun for both you and for me. It'll be cool. Okay, so let's get on with the show. So if you are maybe I can talk. Would that be great? If you've been here before, welcome back. I'm glad you could join us again. If you're new to the podcast and you're listening for the first time, man, welcome. So glad to have you. So just so you know, there are timestamps in the episode description for you to skip to wherever you would like, whether you're listening on YouTube or Spotify or iTunes or on the website, wherever you're listening, your favorite podcast provider, the same episode description posts from the RSS feed to every single platform. So no matter where you're getting this podcast, it is impossible for you to miss those timestamps. So they're there for you. Please use them. Okay. Now you can use those right now to skip to the first topic because I'm about to read ads to you to keep the podcast going. Okay. So if you want to stick around and listen to those ads, that's cool. They're genuine. But if you don't want to, skip them. Not my problem. Okay. I am now going to speak about the companies that make this podcast possible. Because as always, this podcast is proudly sponsored by Legion Athletics. Did you know that? They're helping us, and it's really great because nothing you do, exercise, sports, really anything worth doing is can be done without consistency. You have to do things all the time if you want to be good at them. Legion Athletics can help you with that, and they have a lot of stuff that I do use personally just because I've always used this stuff. It just so happens that they sponsor this podcast, so now I use it from them, okay? Whey protein, pre-workout, post-workout, vitamins, minerals, creatine, stuff like that. They don't have every single thing you need, but they certainly have a lot of it, and I will say this, this is more of a recent thing, not necessarily for me, but more of a knowledge gain that I've had recently. So, for example, I've used creatine monohydrate for a long time. It's probably, and I guess you can quote me on this. I think it's the most studied sports performance supplement that we have, like known to man. Okay, it's very safe. It's naturally occurring in red meat, for example, creatine monohydrate, and you can use it to replace ATP in the process of energy breakdown in the cycle. It'll give you more power, more endurance, brings more water into the muscles, which are mostly water anyway, for more muscle volume. It's essentially, it's a great supplement. There are no negatives that I know of, as long as you drink enough water when you're using it. Now, there's something that, this is new research to me. It's not new research. It's newer research to, I guess, the state of practice in sports physiology. It has cognitive benefits, and I guess I knew that like anecdotally, but I always take it. So I notice when I'm working out regularly and I'm taking it more, I feel sharper. I always thought that was just because of the endorphins or the blood flow or like other, ancillary benefits from strength training. It turns out it might also be the creatine, because there's like controlled studies that have been done now on the cognitive benefits of creatine as well, particularly I believe also with postmenopausal women, which is very interesting. So if you are into this type of thing, you can go Google that. I don't have any references handy for you right now. I have read some papers on it. So anyway, visit legionathletics.com. You don't have to buy creatine from them. You can buy creatine anywhere. I'm just trying to, I don't care where you buy it. I don't care. But if you visit legionathletics.com, there's a link in the show notes, code word PewScience to save 20% off of your first order, which is a lot of money if you buy a bunch of stuff. If you keep using the code word PewScience, you get 10% off everything you buy using points. Understand? So it's a no-brainer. So if you're gonna buy supplements and you want to make sure you get them from a place that's like legit and they don't have extra stuff in them that's not on the label, and that would like make you piss hot on a drug test if you're a competitive athlete that's like tested by USADA, for example, which I know there are many of you that listen to this because you're some of my friends that still compete. Legion Athletics is all the stuff they sell is clean, which is amazing. Okay. So anyway, get strong. It's important. I know that was a really long ad, but it's more of an informational thing to you. I would not be reading that if I didn't believe in their company. Okay. No, I don't take on a sponsor unless I believe in them. Okay. This episode is also brought to you by Silencer Shop. Speaking of people, they're great. They've done a lot obviously for the industry, right? I mean, they're responsible for the distribution of silencers in a way that really, until they came along, was not like this. Okay. They help consumers, you understand that, but they also help dealers that are just getting started. It's really a good way with their kiosk to, you don't have to hold a lot of inventory. You use their kiosk, you use their inventory, you control your margins, stuff like that, low overhead. So Silencer Shop can help you out. Okay. Please. I implore you, if you are thinking about starting a business, it is a good way to do it. People have been successful doing it. Okay. It's all about your grind. Like how bad do you want it? Right. So you do use their kiosk, do your fingerprints and photos electronically, cut down on errors. You simplify your silencer purchasing process. You get a money back guarantee. Is pretty good. Okay, you don't pay any transfer fees, no paperwork errors, just you and your silencer with no drama. It truly is silencer ownership simplified. And speaking of someone who's like totally, carved their own niche and been very successful and has done great things for consumers in one of the most populous cities in Texas, Top Gun Range Houston. Kyle and his crew there, man, I tell you what, I am telling you, when you go to that range and that gun shop, you're like, wow, this is really nice. 15-lane indoor shooting range in Houston. Largest firearm rental fleet in the whole state of Texas. They do classes there too. If you're brand new guns, you've never shot a gun and you're in Houston on a business trip, or let's say you're going to Houston on a business trip and you're going with a bunch of people and like some of them are like aren't gun people and you never talk about that at work because it's like taboo because you work in some industry where it's like super taboo. But then like they see like they look over your, they see your phone, you're scrolling and they see like an Instagram thing and they're like, oh, what's that? Is that a machine gun? You're like, yeah, dude, I'm kind of into machine guns. Don't think I'm weird. They're like, oh, cool. Like I've never shot a machine gun. And you can be like, well, do you want to? Because like we're totally in Houston. We can go to Top Gun Range. And they'd be like, what? That's right, because you can rent pistols and rifles and shotguns and machine guns. You can even rent the silencers. Imagine taking one of your coworkers that has no idea about firearms, teaching them how to shoot a handgun, which would be amazing. Then you have them shoot a machine gun. Then you have them shoot a suppressed machine gun. They'd be hooked for life. Understand? Check out their firearm rental fleet at topgunrange.com. Instagram, Top Gun Range. Kyle's awesome. Thank you, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar. This episode is also brought to you by Capital Armory. Yeah, so silencers are in high demand. Approval times are pretty quick. There is no way that you can find a silencer 100% of the time using only one system. You have to have options as a consumer. There's no way, like, and both Silencer Shop knows this, Capital Armory knows this, everyone knows this. Silencer Central knows this. Everyone knows this. There is too much demand and silencers are flying off the shelves. So this is another option for you, okay? Capital Armory has a unique twist, and to my knowledge, like, they're doing it probably the best out of anyone who's trying to do what they're doing. They have a large selection of silencers, right? They help you with the paperwork, yada, yada, but they can ship the silencer directly to you. So it's another option, right? Some of you work nights. You're never going to be able to go to a gun store. You work nights. I know you do because I've done that. So like I've been away for months doing stuff and never able to go to a gun store because of the work schedule. So let's say you live in one of the 42 states where silencers are legal. You order a silencer in your living room with Capital Armory. You have it shipped directly to the same living room. It's wild. It's that easy. Okay, Capital Armory, silencer shipped directly to your door. Finally, and I know I'm going long, but I have a lot to say. Plus, I'm hopped up on pre-workout from Legion Athletics, the Pulse Blood Orange flavor. Get some. The podcast is brought to you by the Pew Science Laboratory. Pretty proud of that we're able to do this. I am the technical director of the lab. In the interest of public education, the lab sponsors the podcast, runs a public research effort. We continue to push the silencer industry forward one test at a time. Okay, visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating. These are the simplest and most accurate hearing safe rating for your suppressed small arms. It's all based on true human inner ear response of the entire gunshot from before combustion takes place, all the way until all the combustion is gone, all the mechanical operation of the weapon system is ceased. The entire signature in the true free field, as the mill standard originally intended. Understand? Yeah, we do it right. It's awesome. Okay, Pew Science is the home of the silencer sound standard. There are 7 sections to the standard, and it is the most in-depth and accurate silencer data and analysis in the entire world, and it's all available to you, the public, 24/7 at pewscience.com. That's for the people, by the people, or by the people, for the people, whatever you want to say. And just so you know, it is by the people because you can support this podcast yourself and keep this whole thing running. You can support the lab. You can support Pew Science, all the testing we do by joining with a membership at pewscience.com. Literally help keep the lights on. There's a donate feature too. If you don't want to give like a recurring thing, some people, I don't know, they're weird about recurring stuff because their budget works a different way in their household and whatever, dude. Do your thing. You're a grown adult, right? Maybe you just want to throw us a bone every once in a while, donate. Maybe you're a member and you're like, well, I don't want 2 memberships, but I want to throw you a bone. We have had some donations that have been incredibly generous. And of course it's tax deductible. So there's that too. Every little bit helps, guys. And you don't have to give if you can't give monetarily because times are tight and inflation is getting you down and the price of your groceries is high. Something that's free and doesn't cost you anything is giving this podcast a high rating on the YouTube or the Facebook or the Spotify, the iTunes, or the wherever you listen to your podcast. Help folks know that silencers and guns are awesome. And we can help normalize the use of suppressed small arms, okay? Okay, there are 2 topics that I would like to speak with you today that I talked about in the intro. First is suppressing the Walther PPK SD in 32. Is it going to work? I don't know. I have a sample size of 1 to go over with you and give you some caveats of mine for you to help you. I'm going to give you a short update on that, okay? I want to be James Bond, but I've never seen anyone complain about trying to be James Bond with this gun. Everyone's like, oh, it's so great. I have this thing with the silencer. It's like, do you? Because have you used it? So I have. I'm going to shoot you straight as usual. Topic 2, listener questions are back, of course. We have a bunch. And so we're going to take a break from publications this week after a busy October, and then I'm going to answer some of your questions from the 7th solicitation. Okay? And be sure to follow the podcast page on Instagram at the J Situation to keep up with these solicitations. That way you can also participate. Okay? Okay. All right, let me get my notepad. Gosh, this is something I should have done before. No show prep here. Oh, gotta free ball it. As they free balling. No, that's another song, is it? Topic 1 at a time of 14 minutes and 22 seconds. Oh man, that's not normal. But we had a lot to talk about. I had to tell you about creatine and the cognitive benefits, and those. I have to find those studies and post them for you. I started following this physician and researcher on social media who was posting a lot of the research, the up-to-date research on creatine, because I follow another powerlifter who is also he might be an exercise physiologist, but he always kind of keeps me up to date casually with studies like that. So I thought that was cool. So that's why that intro took a long time. So topic 1, Walther PPK SD and 32 ACP. I usually, if I talk about a firearm, I usually have it here on my desk. Yeah, I don't. It's actually disassembled, and it's on my gun bench right now. And I'm posting a picture of it with this podcast as disassembled immediately after shooting. The firearm, this could be going better, this Walther experience. And I'm no shade at them. I mean, I think their history speaks for themselves. They're a wonderful, wonderful pedigree of arms, small arms. But it could definitely be going better. So I put some rounds through the gun, more than I had before. I thought that things were working okay. I was pretty stoked, and I never really had functional issues with factory handguns that I have personally purchased in the past. I have not had issues before, and I know there's a first time for everything. Because here's how I have kind of run my risk mitigation strategy over the years with regard to, small arms or, handgun, defensive, self-defense handguns or, sidearm purchases and stuff like that. I kind of have a risk mitigation strategy, and you know what mine is? I just normally stick with established manufacturers like SIG and HK and Glock and Beretta for handguns, because for one, the first firearm that I ever purchased personally as an adult was a SIG P226. I got into firearms later in life than many people, and my SIG P226 is one of the most reliable firearms that I own, and I later learned is one of the most reliable firearms that exists in small arms history with regard to combat centerfire handguns. And that led me down a path to, understand why that was, what the engineering pedigree was, and then what some other companies that have brilliant engineering and manufacturing standards, SIG and HK and Glock and Beretta, just amazing. Really amazing. All of those companies. I know some people like to argue about what's better, and I don't do that. I don't need to do that. So I say all this because, and this is a relaxing podcast today. You don't have to get all up in arms about this. I'm just saying, I usually stick to those. I call them the big four, right? And I tell you what. So I look at this Walther. My wife was like, "I think you're saying it wrong." I was like, "Am I?" Walther. They did the PPK SD, right? In 32 ACP, no less. And I saw an opportunity to own a centerfire blowback pistol that I have wanted for a very long time. It's not a need, it's a want, right? Let's be honest. And is a threaded version in the cartridge, in the correct cartridge for the Bond legacy, and the John Browning, 32 legacy, lower energy than 380, not as snappy, just better for the blowback platform. Seemed an elegant solution, engineering wise to me. So I jumped on it immediately. As I told you, it was very cool. Looks amazing, pretty. Bought a couple of cases of S&B ammo because of speaking with some folks that it is full power CIP, European spec ammunition. If you're going to use it to kill something, you want it to have a velocity that has efficacy for penetration. It's a small cartridge, it's full metal jacket, so you're probably not going to get significant expansion, but you might get good penetration with full power rounds. I felt this is prudent, would be prudent for both testing and for self-defense and plinking and everything. Why not just stock up on that ammunition? So I did. I tried a couple of silencers, worked well, didn't have issues. So I bought a bunch of magazines. And I actually, you know what? I carried the gun myself. I took it from lab inventory, and I carried the gun to dinner the other night. I put it in my pocket. Excellent dinner gun, frankly. I found it to be very convenient. I don't usually carry a gun in my pocket. I usually use a holster or a fanny pack. This time I put it in my pocket. It was my jeans. I was like, this is great. It has a safety. This is great. You know, they have little pocket holsters you can get. Anyway, I was doing some ranch work on this past Sunday. Remember I told you it took like a half a day off, and I went to, I was actually working on Sunday afternoon, and I was decompressing from that insane schedule we've had. And so at the end of the day, in the evening, I set aside some time to shoot the PPK, and I mean really shoot this thing, right? And I wanted to shoot it with a ton more silencers. Okay. And I told you guys before, like when I spoke about the silencer, I was going to shoot some more silencers with the gun, give you some informal anecdotal impressions, just because sometimes that's fun to do. Like, it's not actual testing. And and it's funny because, like, you hear these YouTubers or, and no offense to YouTubers, but like you hear these people on social media, they're like, well, I can't wait to test this thing. And I'm like, okay, be careful how you use that word, because in the world I'm from, when you use that word, it's like, it's very strict. So I'm not telling you that I went and I tested silencers on this gun. No, I literally put the silencers on the gun and shot it to see like what was going on with it. You can call that a test if you want. We don't call it that because we use a strict definition. We're just having fun, because sometimes just having fun is a reasonable thing to do. If you don't have time to follow formal protocols, maybe you just don't even feel like being formal at the time. Not everything has to be so serious in life. You have to kind of relax sometimes. And that's me right now. I'm tired. I just wanted to relax and enjoy the gun. I was like, you know what? This is one of my dream guns. That's extreme. Not dream. This is one of my bucket list guns. I'm not dreaming about it, but this is one of my bucket list guns. This is going to be fun. I have some steel plates set up at the ranch. And I have all these silencers. Let me see which ones are awesome. Let me shoot this gun. Let me do some plinking. Plinking is like one of my favorite pastimes, especially pistol shooting. Pistol shooting to me is oftentimes much more fun than rifle shooting, because I know this might make some people mad, I think the pistol shooting takes more skill. It's what I first fell in love with regard to centerfire firearms, not like BB guns and stuff. So anyway. So I tried a few silencers. One second. And this was really interesting. So I tried a few silencers. I tried the AAC Illusion 9. You know what? I put a CGS Helios DT, which is a Hyperion K threaded half 28. And I know it's a 7.62 silencer, but it's overboard a little bit. So I put it on the gun because I knew it would be okay. I know, don't do that, okay? I put a PTR Vent 2 on there with a direct thread mount. I put that, and I did the Cat SC again. I was going to try some more, but let me tell you why I stopped. So anyway, that's some foreshadowing, but let me tell you really quick about that Illusion 9 from AAC, which okay, first of all, I have 3 of those in inventory, because I was scared they were never going to be made again. And I thought they were so cool. I'm not saying they're quiet, because they're not. I just wanted, I was scared. Like Ace, I didn't know I thought they were going to go away, so I started buying them because I was freaking out. And Mike Smith designed that silencer, and I'm a big fan of his designs. Always have been. They don't always perform super well, but his design, his eye for design, as a silencer, not Pew Science. I'm not talking about Pew Science. I'm talking about me. As a silencer fan and a silencer guy, I've always found Mike Smith's designs to be elegant, and I think I've always praised him publicly, and I'm not scared of doing that wherever he works. I don't care. I think he's talented, at least in he has an eye for design, at the aesthetics and the utility. So I had high hopes for the Illusion 9 just because I have this, probably this unconscious bias. I want it to be great. It's so loud on that gun. And that sucks. I wish it was better. I used a fixed barrel spacer, okay, in the gun, okay, because this is a fixed barrel weapon. So that was loud. Wish it was better. The Vent 2 from PTR, hey, sounded pretty good. So there was that. The Helios DT, that was so stupid, but like it was not super bad. So I was like, it was better than Illusion 9. I was like, oh, that's cool. And then, you know what would suck though? They were all blowing particulates back in my face. On my right arm. So I'm right-handed, and I also shoot right-handed, and which is a good distinction. Just because you're right-handed doesn't mean you shoot right-handed. I know that's weird, but it's true. So I'm right-handed and I shoot right-handed. And I mean, after this, I had particulates all over and I have hairy arms, so I had particulates all in my arm hair. Am I right? In my strong hand, in my strong arm, and yeah, it was just all of them were blowing back, and it's a blowback weapon, so I think that's important for you to understand. And this is SMB full power ammo too. But anyway, just I want you to understand this and be realistic with yourself, okay, with your expectations. Now, I want to say, and this is important to understand, even the long configuration of the SC started to do that a little bit, which was very interesting because I had not experienced that previously. So I was like, is this getting worse? Is something happening? I don't know. Now, the long configuration of the SC was certainly better than, first of all, it sounds the best, but also it seemed to be, it was blowing back much less particulates in the long configuration, but it was doing it a little bit too. And I think that's worthy of note. Again, this is sample size of 1, anecdotal, but I'm giving you the details because I know a lot of you want to know this. Now, I will say I was not shooting it with a direct thread mount. I was shooting it with the half 28 CGS piston with a CGS fixed barrel spacer with a wave spring between the teeth of the piston and the spacer. Understand, for full compression, so it doesn't move back and forth. Understand? So I don't know, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I postulate that if you were to use a direct thread mount instead of a piston and fixed barrel spacer, that initial expansion volume into the blast chamber with the specific blast chamber design of the SC and how it vents early, because it has that low alpha, I think it would improve the blowback on this blowback, the particulate on this blow. Maybe. I don't know for sure. The short configuration didn't seem to do as much. I don't, from what I recall, but my memory could be a little fuzzy on that one. Now, some other observations that I wanted to give you guys. All these titanium silencers are sparking at night, and this was a good thing to know, because some of you don't, and this probably doesn't matter for you at all. Like, let's be honest, if you're like super upset because your pistol on your handgun is sparking at night, okay, are you like, what are you using it for? Okay, like, don't freak out, but it is important to know that the time change happened, right? Or, it's like spring forward, fall back. So I was out and it got dark and I was still shooting because I needed that lead therapy. So I was shooting and I saw the sparking, and sparking actually died down the more I shot with some of them, which, is typically true. But I think with the first temperature change in the leading edge, you usually get more sparking earlier in the session. I have experienced that in general. And this is a short barrel weapon. And it's a centerfire cartridge, and it's a full power centerfire cartridge. So you're getting it hot. And I'm telling you, I got that SC. I was shooting like mag after mag after mag through that SC. It was getting so hot, like I couldn't touch that silencer from the pistol, like with my bare hands. It would burn the crap out of me, dude. I was getting hot. Okay. And the one thing I wanted to tell you all, and this is the bad part. This is the really bad part. I started getting light strikes. Okay, and I never thought I'd have to talk about this. One second. Never in a million years did I thought I would be having this conversation, or this one-way conversation, and telling you about it. Now, before I get into this, I do want to say that we have already been in communication with Walther officially, okay, through the official channels like the customer service email, okay, and we have also been in touch with him unofficially through back channels. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. I'm an engineer. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say. So, they know about Pew Science having these issues, full stop. Okay? Okay, I'm going to preface this with that. Now, and I told them I was still going to talk about this because, and I'm going to use discretion. Okay, I'm not going to tell you details about what I'm speaking with them about, but I want to talk about this publicly because if any of you folks have this pistol, I want you to be able to point to this as a case study. So once we figure this out, we're all going to benefit from it. No man left behind. I am not going to freaking be like, oh, well, I got mine, so good luck, bro. No, dude. No. I'm not gonna leave you behind. We're all in this together. That'd be crazy. When have I ever left you behind before? Okay, so this is like for the love of the game, right? Sorry, I keep drinking water because just worked out. So let me tell you about this, like technically. So what do I mean by light strike? Because I'm not as familiar with this because I use quality firearms. And look, I'm not throwing shade at them, but I'm saying, like, remember my mitigation strategy where I'm using like SIGs and Berettas and HKs and like, you know, FN and stuff. Like, did I forget about FN? Like, you know, I'm not used to like where oh, well, if you got to, like, I've heard people are like, well, you know, with my CZ, I've got to change it. I'm like, what? You changing the firing pin? Like, what? No, stop. No, this isn't like Pimp My Ride on some TV show where it's like, well, I'm going to put a screen on the back of the TV. You know, no, dude. This isn't like Custom with a K type of thing, right? We're like, these are weapons for defending you and your family. All right, I'm not playing games. So what I mean by light strikes is I'm going to define it carefully because when you start to Google this, you're going to find people saying all kinds of stuff that are like, you know how unreliable that can be. I'm going to tell you exactly what happened. So this has a 7-round magazine. I insert a full 7-round magazine, you know, rack the slide, chamber around, fire around, and maybe one round in the magazine would maybe fail to fire. So I would pull the trigger and the hammer would drop, hit the firing pin, and just nothing. Click, and that's nothing. So, okay. Well, it's a double action, single action pistol, right? So you have repeat strike capability, unlike a striker fire pistol where you would have to rack the slide. So this, all I did, what I do, I pulled the trigger again in double action mode. And what did that, or I would cock the hammer again and then fire again with single action, whatever. Either way, in any case, the round did fire again. The round did fire after the second strike in all cases. So that happened like one round per mag, right? But I kept shooting. I kept, you know what? I'm gonna put it like, oh, that's interesting. Let's keep going. I'm not gonna stop with a little bit of adversity. So I pushed. It started happening with more than one round a mag. I'm like, oh, it's getting worse. Uh-oh. Then it was happening like three rounds a mag or more. And keep in mind, this is all suppressed. I'm shooting with the silencers. I'm not shooting unsuppressed. What am I? An animal? And it's only a 7-round magazine. You know, I had several magazines. I was trying, you know, this is like one of my outings where I was like, wow, I carry this gun. I better make sure it's like bulletproof, or I'm not carrying this again. You know, I got to make sure, like, if I roll up, you know, can I use it, you know? And so, I'll roll up like I'm a gangster or something. I'm just not, whatever. I'm not serious about that. So I've been using the different silencers, and I settled on using the SC again because it just works the best and it sounds the best. And I was like, okay. So all my shooting ended up being with that. And I was already having the malfunctions with the other silencers. And it just left such a bad taste in my mouth. And I just want to recap and like really, 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 really highlight the exact issue. Every time there was a failure to initiate a primer, on the second strike, initiation was successful. Understand? So the round fired on the second strike in every single case. Okay. So I am defining a light strike as a malfunction in which the primer is struck, it does not initiate, and then a repeat strike does initiate it. I want to be very clear with what I'm saying. And so here's why that's important, I think. We, as in Pew Science, have had primers fail to initiate in testing before. Okay? But with those rounds, repeated chambering and then striking sometimes did not fire them. And I have had this issue personally with major manufacturers of 9mm cartridges, 5.56 and 300 blackout. Okay? Now, I want to say this is a numbers game. If you shoot enough ammo, you will come across this. And Pew Science shoots more ammo than most people do. Trust. Okay? We're going through a lot of ammunition and testing. Now, it's rare to come across something like that where it's truly an ammunition issue and you simply cannot initiate the primer because something's wrong with the primer. And it should be rare. You want that to be very rare, especially as someone who trusts your firearm with your life. Okay? It typically occurs because something's wrong with the primer. Again, it's ammo related. That's not something that's really alarming to most of you who do a lot of shooting. You know how to clear a malfunction. You know how to go on with your life. Okay, that's not something to worry about as much. You know how to clear the malfunction, know how to continue on with shooting, and don't freak out, but it's not something to be alarmed with. Now, in this case, however, with this S&B ammo, guys, and I don't want to speak definitively. I'm not sure yet because I'm in the middle of troubleshooting this, but it might not be the ammo. Okay? And that's the thing that's why I want to talk. That's why I decided to talk about this. One thing I'm concerned about is the pistol operation. Now, look, it's direct blowback, and we're shooting suppressed. Okay? Now, there's a lot of different possibilities, more than I initially realized. One thing I was initially concerned about was that it is theoretically possible that there can be enough debris in the firing pin channel from the silencer experimentation such that the velocity of the firing pin might be compromised. So the momentum is decreased, right? So if the firing pin is moving slower after it's being struck by the hammer, could that potentially result in less force being exerted on the primer during impact? I think that's a potential. I don't want to rule that out. I don't want to rule that out. I don't know if that is happening, but I don't want to rule that out. I don't know yet. I think there's actually a few things to check. And here's what I'm planning to do when I have time, and I don't have a lot of time, but I'm because I was planning on, I wanted to kind of use this as a test host to like do something special for you guys, but right now we can't because this gun is not reliable. So first thing I'm going to do is clean the gun. I already field stripped it. I took a photo of it for the episode. Like I told you, it's pretty dirty from suppressed shooting. I'm going to clean it thoroughly, especially the firing pin channel, see what we see. Going to go ahead and shoot that same ammunition with the same lot number, because yes, we're tracking lot numbers, obviously. Going to shoot the same ammunition with the same lot number unsuppressed, despite me not wanting to. I think we have to do that now as to eliminate variables. I'm going to shoot it unsuppressed, which means I'm going to have to wear earplugs and everything. It's fine. I'm going to see how many rounds I can go without a light strike. I think that's a very important step in the troubleshooting procedure. Now, because I only want to eliminate one variable at a time. I guess that means I'm eliminating two variables because I'm cleaning it first, but primer initiations happen before the blowback happens from a silencer. So if I'm already getting light strikes now, I wouldn't expect like all of a sudden not to get light strikes without a silencer, because you're not. But anyway, I could switch those steps. If I do get light strikes, or if we do get light strikes with unsuppressed shooting with this ammunition after a clean gun, that's going to be useful information to go to the next steps. Okay. If we do not get light strikes, then I'm going to do something else. I'm going to put the silencer back on the gun. A silencer, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. And then I'm going to shoot again and see how many rounds I can go. And then I'll repeat the same experiment. Understand? Suppressed is unsuppressed. The same thing until we figure out exactly how it's manifesting. If we do all of this shooting, and this is, again, every shot is over 50 cents a round, right? You know that this is like, I just want to help you understand that every time we pull the trigger, it's over 50 cents a round. So 2 shots is over $1. Understand? And we've already put like a bunch of rounds. So just want to help you understand how much this is costing. And this is we're not getting paid for this. We're spending, we bought the gun brand new, it was like $1,000, and bought thousands of dollars of ammo, and now I'm burning it publicly. Okay, no one's paying for this except for us. I guess the members are technically paying for it, so thank you. So we're gonna do that. If we do all this and there's still light strikes, unsuppressed and suppressed, then I'm about to order some different ammo, just because that's one of the troubleshooting steps that the company does too. I'll just leave it at that, okay? But I'm not okay with it. Oh well, guys, it's just you go to these forums and people are like, oh well, that's just because those rounds have hard primers. No. Shut up. Don't tell me that a standard pistol cartridge from a major international munitions manufacturer has a hard primer that can't be shot in one of the most prolific handguns of all time. No, stop. If you're okay with that, well, we have different philosophies on small arms. I'm not going to accept that. That's not acceptable to me. That's a cop-out. Okay? That's a cop-out. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable engineering. Okay? Full stop. So those are the steps immediately in front of us right now. As far as causes that are on our list so far that I can speak about publicly, like I already said, you could have a dirty firing pin channel, for example. Of course, like the simple things, if you follow the force path, you go, well, maybe the hammer spring's weak, or like maybe, and I brought this up, I was like, well, what if if you understand how primers work, it's like, well, if the tip of the firing pin is like not shaped right, and you have the same force of strike, but the pressure is lower because it's too big of an area, then you don't initiate it right. I don't know. I actually had a conversation with several firearm engineers about primer initiation like several years ago. I found it to be fascinating. Anyway, so there could be issues with that. There could be issue with like the hammer strut. Maybe it's misshapen, or like maybe there's some drag. There could be some things. There's even a loaded chamber indicator in this thing. I don't think that's part of it, but I'm not ruling it out necessarily. There's a lot of things on my whiteboard of like my differential diagnosis here, right? Another thing, like it's like this never lupus, right? Like that show House. Anyway, there's some other things on my list that are there because I had a conversation with someone through a back channel, and I would rather not speculate on some of those publicly because it's just not professional to do. I don't want to blow up their spot, and if it is something that we spoke about, I don't want to broadcast that. They trusted me, so I'm not going to blow up their spot. Okay. I'm trying to respect them, And I'm also trying to like respect you guys because like I freaking posted a picture of this thing like, oh, look how cool it is. I'm so stoked. I want to like use a silencer on it. It's so fun. Oh, James Bond, blah, blah, blah. You see all these influencers, right? They post them. And I saw this influencer. He was shooting it. He's like super into James Bond. And he's shooting this thing with a silencer. And I'm like, what ammo is he using? And how many malfunctions has he had? And is he telling people if he's had any? Because I actually did a solicitation on social media with questions. I had thousands and thousands of people see this question. I said, if you have a light strike with a Walther PPK, a centerfire Walther PPK, please email me or DM me. I did it like yesterday, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people view that. And I got a non-trivial amount of people back that says, yes, I've had light strikes. Oh no. Okay. I didn't know that. And I'm pissed. And I'm not pissed at the gun company. I'm pissed at myself for not knowing it. Okay? And now I don't want you to think it's like I'm pissed and this is an expensive firearm. So, I mean, right now I can't carry it anymore because it doesn't work. I would literally never buy a pistol that has issues like this. So I hope I can figure it out because I want to like it. If it's like a firearm pin issue, like what, okay, whatever. If it's spring issue, fine. But some people, they bought these PPKs, they were made in Germany like back in the day, right? And they get them, they're super old. And they're like, oh, I'm getting light strikes. And they're like, well, I replaced the springs and everything's fine. I'm like, okay, great. This is not the same situation. This is a brand new gun, homie. So I want to know what they think, the manufacturer. So I'm going to be respectful to them, and we're going to talk about it. But I'm going to come correct, and I'm going to tell you how we resolve it. I'm not letting this go. Okay, it's like this is like the one opportunity I have to do this. Like if I had a problem with a silencer like this, I couldn't do this because people would accuse me of bias and yada yada yada. But I don't. We don't test guns as a lab. And give a gun rating, a suppression rating for the gun necessarily. So I now I get to do this with no fear of like, oh, they're biased. Pew Science is biased. Are we? Maybe I want my gun to work. You know what I mean? So we got some responses to our email we sent. So we're going back and forth. Now I will say this 1 second. And this is really the pay dirt and why I brought this up at all. There is one possibility that could be catastrophic, and I don't want this to be true. If it is true, it's a big problem. If this issue is pervasive because of suppressed use, and that is the only reason, if it's suppressed use only, we're going to have a big issue on our hands. Because that would indicate that the SD model is not a viable SD model. Okay? And that would indicate that everyone who had their traditional PPK extended and threaded did so at their own peril. Because it would never work reliably. And it's just a fun costume piece or for photographs and not for real use. And what kind of silencer guy would I be if I didn't tell you about that, right? So I don't want that to be true. I don't think it's true. I think there's something else going on. So I'm optimistic that we don't have to worry about that. But that's the elephant in the room, right? I'm going to be honest with you about that. Because, I mean, this is like, what, you want to be James Bond or not? Okay. James Bond wouldn't let that go if Q gave him and I say Q, not the company now, but in the movies, the dude, the guy who's like his arms guy. He's like, hey, James, Mr. Bond, I got this new gun. It has like a super hip, fingerprint ID thing, whatever. That dude's never going to give him a gun that works like this. So you can't be James Bond unless we figure this out. Okay, understand? So that's my initial update. I wish it was more positive. I feel like that was doom and gloom, but what? You want me to lie to you? It's like... And believe me, I got a ton of feedback. If you think I'm the only one with this issue, you are wrong. And if you think it's only me because I use the silencers, you're wrong too. And if you think it's only 32 ACP and not 380 as well, you're also wrong. And if you're someone with a rimfire, well, we don't need to talk to you about this because rimfire is not something that is there's unfortunately rimfire initiation. The primer around the rim is not as a reliable thing. So, although you could be having a problem with that too, with a PPK chambered in rimfire PPK. That we're talking about center fire, and that's, I think, more topical. So it's not that I'm leaving you out. It's just that technically the same issues might not apply. So I don't want to conflate things and muddy the waters. Okay, so with that said, I know a lot of you you're looking to buy these, and they're brand new out in the market, the SD. So if you have a center fire PPK and have had light strikes, please let me know. Okay, email tech, TECH, tech@pewscience.com. I would love to hear the circumstance of your experience, including the ammunition type, all the details you can give. 380 or 32, okay? Centerfire experience, let me know. Thank you. Okay, I know that's a lot. Some of you are like, why is he telling us this? It's like, because I care, and I'm pissed, and I want the gun to work. Topic 2 at a time of 50 minutes and 54 seconds. God. I know. I think some people are going to listen to this podcast and freak out, but I don't care. I feel like I've earned the right to complain when something doesn't work and figure it out. Topic 2, listener questions. That's right. So again, taking a break from some publications this week, being a little bit selfish and wanting to live. Doing a lot of, we've been doing a lot of testing recently. Some client stuff, but also a ton of member-funded stuff. Ooh, some super popular silencers that a lot of people are like, Pew Science doesn't test our favorite things. Okay, well, we do, and we have, and you'll see them, so relax. Member funding, it is awesome, and it works, and we have done some things that you will see and you will like, and maybe you will be sad about, but hey, you wanted it. You want the answer or not, So we're going to do listener questions. And it's fun. So it'll be cool. Let me open our spreadsheet here. If you're new to this, first of all, you're probably listening to this podcast. If you're new to this and be like, I thought this was a silencer podcast. How come this guy's talking about the PPK? He thinks he's going to LARP as James Bond. No, I'm not going to LARP as James Bond. I just thought it's a cool gun. It looks cool. What? You don't like cool guns? So anyway, so if you're new to this, listener questions, we've been doing this for years. We're on the 7th round. And we, if you want to find out, if you want to listen to all the listener questions, only those, if you go to pewscience.com/podcast and you click on the listener questions metadata tag that is present with this episode 236, it'll pull up all of the episodes with listener questions. Okay. So, last time on listener questions, we finished on question 531, sub-question 29 of the 7th round. The question was, in the test host description, you mentioned the stock position. In what ways does that change the results? And that was an excellent technical question from a longtime Pew Science member and podcast listener. And I spoke with them frankly in an answer in the podcast on that episode, and I talked about the distance to the shooter's ear being paramount, us being one of the only entities that reports this, standardization, why it's important, how it affects it. So if you're interested, again, go back to the last question, the last episode with listener questions, and you can hear my answer. Okay, that's important. You guys should focus on that because you need to be. That's why Pew Science is so transparent with how we test. Okay. Because we do it right, and we want you to know it's right. We want you to have your confidence in it, okay? One moment. Okay, question 532, sub-question 30. Can silencers with similar total impulse ever have significantly different hearing damage risk? Yeah, I cheated. And I looked at this question, and in order to answer it I look at all the questions to screen them, and I usually just kind of give them those answers off the cuff. But with this one, I had to look back into the standard, and I had to come up with some concrete examples so I could back up what I'm going to tell you, because I couldn't remember off the top of my head, because I don't look at this. Because the answer is yes, first of all, but I didn't want to just say that and be like, yes, do your homework. I wanted to help you. So let me repeat the question. So this later gentleman is asking, can silencers with the same total impulse, and what they're really saying is, or what they're really asking is, can silencers that produce a signature that have a higher average maximum positive phase impulse than another silencer that have the same, that have very similar maximum positive phase impulse as another silencer, could those affect your ears differently, like in risk, in damage risk? And my answer is yeah. But I would also say, sir or ma'am, it depends what you mean by significant, because what's significant to you might not be significant to others. Because at a basic level, there's a limit of what certain energy can do to you at a basic level. There are also differences in how impulse accumulates over time, and this is something that's important to understand. There's differences in how it manifests. There's differences in how the time phasing is produced from each signature, and all of the factors that influence loudness, like the amplitude, the frequency, the phase, and the duration, they all play a part, okay? And I want to preface what I'm going to tell you with that, okay? Now, the way I actually looked at this so I could give you actual examples, and the way let me tell you how I started it, this took me 5 minutes, but I had to do it. And you can do this yourself. You don't have to pick the ones I did, but you can do this yourself at home. A really great exercise, and you should be able to understand this at this point if you've been listening to this for a while. A really great exercise can be looking at waveforms of drastically different shapes, because that's what happens with these. So what you want to do, like for example, you can compare how a peak of a certain wave shape may be completely different than another one. And if you pull up you can do this with a rankings table. Just pick like 2 different ammo types or weapon systems, and have both of those displayed at the same time, and then sort by like a muzzle rating or an ear rating, and then pick 2 systems that are completely and utterly different. And this is the ones I looked at just because what I picked: Energetic Armament Vox S with a wipe on 300 blackout subs on a bolt gun, and then Otter Creek Labs Lithium on a 9mm MP5. Couldn't be more different, right? Couldn't be more different. You have a wiped silencer on 300 blackout bolt gun, 30 caliber silencer. Then you have a 9mm pistol silencer on a semi-automatic 9mm subgun. Completely different weapon systems, sound completely differently from each other. Okay, so pick them both. Look at and just look. For example, look at and make it simple. Look at the muzzle suppression rating. Look at the muzzle suppression rating on the wiped Vox. I wrote it down as 56.3. Then the muzzle suppression rating on the Lithium on the MP5 with 9mm is 55.2. Okay, so basically like a point difference, right? Okay, point difference. Now look at the peak impulse. The average. Oh, I'm going to sneeze 1 second. Oh, let me pause it. Okay, sorry, I had to sneeze. Yeah, so look at the peak, the peak positive phase average impulse. Vox S, 111.4 decibel millisecond. The Lithium is 117.3 decibel millisecond. Okay, that's a 6 decibel millisecond difference. And so I know this is going a little bit differently, where you have a similar suppression rating, but the impulse is different. You wanted to know, just realized that. You wanted to know if the impulse was the same, with the suppression rating be different. And then clearly, yes, but conversely would also be true. So because this is a 6 decibel millisecond difference. Okay. 6 decibel millisecond difference is a pretty big difference. But the hearing damage risk is very similar. Hearing damage risk is very similar. Okay. And why is that? Why is the suppression rate of the muzzle very similar, but the peak impulse is different. Well, it's because of the different time and the different amplitudes and frequency and phase and duration together. If you look at just the amplitude, well, you don't have the frequency and the phase and the duration. Now, you go to something with like 130 decibel millisecond impulse. You're probably getting more hazardous, but how much more hazardous? Well, it depends, right? Like there are eventually points at where the timing matters, but the amplitude matters more, and the amplitude has to be above a certain threshold. So this is where it's really good to understand the concept of PI space, and this is a blast engineering and a blast effects physics phenomena that we use professionally for decades and decades and decades and decades. And it's in the Sonsor Sound Standard. And pressure and impulse matter together. You can't isolate a single peak to tell a good story. And the thing that folks forget is that pressure impulse curves are only valid for a certain wave shape. And it just so happens that the wave shapes from suppressed small arm signatures at the muzzle and ear are so complex that you have to map your spaces very carefully. So if you try, and this is literally written in the Sonsor Sound Standard in black and white. It's been there for 5 years, guys. If you try to use your peak pressure and impulse without the suppression rating, you will fail. And then if you think you're going to get smart and just use the pressure, you want to use pressure and impulse, and you put it all on the same chart, you will fail. Unless your wave shapes are like exactly the same, and they won't be because the sensors are different. You see what I mean? There is no way. The only way to use only peak values is like limited situations in silencer development when you have iterations of like the same silencer. And that might help you in some ways, but it's still not going to tell you hearing damage risk. You see what I mean? And this is the disconnect between like the silencer companies who are so adamant that they don't need the suppression rating because they're doing development in a certain way that you don't need it necessarily for development in all ways. But if you don't look at the whole signature, you're never going to get the full story. And you're never going to get the hearing damage risk potential. So I hope this nuance is important. It's in the Sonsor Sound Standard. In fact, if I pull up the website, it's in section 4. Okay, it's in section 4, and the reviews are in section 6. Okay, and remember the rankings are in section 7. Okay, so it's there. Okay, so finally, to finish answering questions, sir, definitively, can silencers with similar total impulse ever have significantly different hearing damage risk? Yes, because the impulse can be applied over a different time window, shorter or longer, and it might vent differently, and you could have different frequencies that are exciting different parts of your ear. And if you want to know way more about this, look at the most recent article on the website, the member research supplement that we just published, which I believe was article 6169. Okay, for you members, that's a members only thing, but it can directly help you answer this question. And if you're not a member, maybe you'll join and read it. Thank you for asking the question. That was a really long answer. I'm sorry, but it was a complicated question and it deserved a full answer. Question 533, sub-question 31. Besides can temperature, what impacts suppression in large strings of fire? Okay, so let me rephrase your question, sir. Besides silencer temperature, what can impact suppression in a large string of fire? Okay. Okay, right off the bat, I want to tell you it's usually temperature. So you're on the right track, and that's why you're asking. But to be clear, and let me be very exact, it's not only the temperature of the silencer itself, sir or ma'am. It is the temperature inside different parts of the silencer and inside the host weapon as well. And we're talking about a continuum of and in time. So this isn't like steady state. Okay? Not yet, at least. So you're talking about large strings of fire. So let me be clear. This is moving into silencer design, and some silencers provide gas expansion pads that can behave erratically, or they can cause gas propagation to behave erratically. This is particularly the case when the flow rate gets very high. Okay. Now, you have seen some of this yourself. You just might not realize it. You have seen some of this in the Surefire RC3 testing, yes? That's one example. Another great textbook example of this is when you shoot a very overboard silencer for the cartridge that has a primitive design geometry, like a primitive 30 caliber silencer on 5.56. And I'm not saying primitive in a derogatory way. I'm talking about using a technology that might be more traditional, okay, in a manner for which it's not intended. Like, maybe you put a Sam NS on a 5.56 gun, or you put a rugged Razor 7.62 on a 5.56 gun, okay? You're going to see some combustion propagation anomalies. Yes, you've seen them in the test data over the years. And you can search our website, and to see that, there's a Google search box on the free review page, for example, that may help you, sir. Okay, if you can see... And you know what? Let me help you. Shoot, I should have looked at this. I'm just scrolling the reviews because I can tell you. I can tell you something real quick here. If you look at 7.62 Mini 2 on 5.56, that's article 6.157. I just found this because I can remember what I wrote. Super crazy, like uncontrolled combustion due to overbore, and you best believe that was six shots. You best believe if we did more than that, you're going to get more because of this. And sure, it's temperature, but it's also like the silencer design itself. And the reason I pulled this up is because there's a paragraph in here I remember I wrote. Research note 2 of article 6.157. Yeah. Yeah. Research note 2 of article 167, sir. During the combustion of air, despite the consumption of air supporting ancillary combustion during FRP, shot 2 through the SOCOM 7.62 Mini 2 exhibits highly erratic post-peak blast propagation and subsequent blast load impulse accumulation. Uncontrolled distal flow exhibited without purposeful venting is typically a negative performance characteristic of overbore. Loss of efficiency by bore expansion is relatively commonplace, but not necessarily universal. Then I describe in a bulleted list some things that can be okay with it. Then I say some technologies are extremely sensitive to the changes, like Surefire stuff, and Q Trash Panda, Rugged Razor 7.62, Energetic Armament RX, Rugged Razor 5.56, Dead Air Sam NS. You see what I mean? See what I mean, Jelly Bean? I had that in my mind, and that's what I was talking about. So there it is. That's the answer. Okay. It's in the articles. You just didn't know it. That's awesome. Thank you for asking that question. Question 534, sub-question 32. What gun do you enjoy shooting the most right now? Your timing is impeccable. If you had asked me this last week before I went shooting on Sunday, I would have told you the new Walther PPK SD. I'm telling you, the first time I shot that gun, I was like, oh my God, this is great. I'm so pissed it's not working. I'm not pissed at Walther. I'm pissed just because I want the gun to work. I don't care about the brand. I just want it to work. Like I'm not pissed at any person. I'm upset that it doesn't work. I want the guns to work. Anyway, my favorite thing to shoot right now is probably the HK SP5 with a silencer, or the Mark 23 with a silencer. I'm a really big HK fan, guys. I just am. Always have been, man. I cannot get over how fun it is to shoot a Mark 23 suppressed with a Knights can. No, it's not that quiet, but oh man. I really love that gun. It just shoots so well suppressed, guys. It's 45. It's like just... You asked me what I enjoy to shoot. I love shooting that gun, dude. The silencer doesn't come loose. I'm hitting steel with authority with a 230 grain projectile. Bro. That's a freaking man's gun, dude. Anyway, we have access to plenty of firearms and silencers in inventory, right? I'm too busy right now to have fun shooting, unfortunately. That's just how it is. Now, I mean, this is my current answer. Look, it's just bad timing. I'm telling you, if that PPK was working right, that might be the answer. It's cool. It's a cool little gun. It's not inspiring confidence right now. And I hope we can figure it out. I don't want to have to get rid of it. And the mags and the ammo, I will if I have to. Several $1,000s, but I'll recoup it. You live and you learn. And that's why I told you. Again, I really want you to know that is why I told you guys about that. One of the points of Pew Science is to help you with reasonable expectations of things. If I can help you with a gun too, there's no way I'm going to keep that info secret. I'm going to tell everyone that if it helps just one person. You know that's worth it, right? If that helps one person, it was worth it to me. I do believe that. So thanks for the question. I'm sorry I don't have a super positive answer to that. Question 535, sub-question 33. In a podcast, you mentioned putting a silencer, you said can. I know. I don't like the word can because it conflates the meaning of the sentence. It's okay. In a podcast, you mentioned putting a can in the freezer when shooting it. What does that let you figure out? Oh, I know why you used can, because you're the word limit in the question thing. You're smart. Or the character limit. I did mention that on a podcast. Thank you for listening, sir. You're awesome. Yeah, why would we put a silencer in the freezer and then shoot it? Why would we do that? Why would we do such a thing? If you freeze a silencer, or forget about the word freeze, maybe that's too strong. If you chill a silencer way below room temperature and you do experiments with it, you will be amazed at what you can determine. In some silencers, it doesn't make that much of a difference at all, interestingly enough. Now, with some others, and look, you got to be really careful because you don't want a condensation to influence this, okay? But so if you do this right, you can determine just how much immediate heat transfer can change stuff. And let me give you a practical. So we were trying to figure out sensitivity of temperature to test, how do I say this? We were trying to figure out how sensitive test results were to temperature sensitivity, and specifically the temperature of the silencer, not like the outside temperature. We were just like, well, how much can we skew results if we freeze it? What if we, blowtorch it? What if we, we want to know we want to know bounds of uncertainties for different testing parameters. You can imagine like all the things we have to control for, right? So, we want to understand what we know, what we don't know. It was one of those lab things, right? We want to figure it out. And one of the reasons too, there's a secondary technical reason here, is that some silencers that depend on a long contact time with surface area, and as you could imagine, they seem to be a little more sensitive to this. And that's what we did. We expected that to happen, and our hypothesis proved to be true, or correct rather. It was an internal study. It was a cool thing we did, and it's not something we're going to publish. We're just not going to publish that. But it was cool, and it helped us with our methods. It helped us with sharpening our methods, so to speak. So that's why, that's one of the reasons I'm proud of us and what we do, because we look at that. And thanks for asking. I mean, that's why we did it, because we wanted to understand the influence, but we also wanted to prove out some hypotheses we had about certain silencers and why, and frankly, it's for us, because it's not for like other people, like so you can look at someone else's results and be like, well, the reason their test results aren't showing this is because they didn't. No, dude, they're not even looking at the waveform. So why would they? They don't care at all. They're even if they show you waveforms, they're not even looking at them. They're just giving you the peaks anyway. So what? How's it going to help them? It's going to help anybody. It's going to help us because we're doing it, right? So it's like that's why we're not publishing that, because it's like, well, it doesn't help you. But what it does do is it does help you indirectly in that. What? Hey, here's something that you just learned, right? What, you saw the recent Mark 18 article with the Huxworks Flow 556 Ti, right? Yeah. See how like some temperature affected that? Yes. What if you put it in a freezer? Would that change? Yes. Okay. Do you live in a freezer? Are you shooting in a freezer? No. See where I'm going with that? All right, cool. Question 536, sub-question 34. At the current state of 556 suppression, can we gain more from host or can development? I read that weird. Now that I've read it, let me read it again. At the current state of 556 suppression, can we gain more from host development or silencer development? Then I read it correctly. Okay. So this later gentleman is asking like, hey man, so 556 silencers are doing this good or this bad. How do we move forward? Do we need to focus on the silencers or do we need to focus on the guns? And that's like a high level question, and that's a really good question. And I think more people should be asking that question. So thank you. My answer is I think more silencer development is in order. That might be a controversial topic, and it might be something that the weapons developer don't agree with. Let me elaborate. I do think, and this is controversial. Am I going to get in trouble? Maybe some people are going to text me. I think the host issues have been figured out. I think you can tune a gun. Look, we're talking about 556, right? Let me set a baseline. We're talking about 556. We're talking about the AR-15. Okay. You asked. We got to narrow it down because this is going to be an hour-long answer if we don't narrow it down. So 556, talking about the AR-15. Okay, cool. Now, that being said, I think we figured out the host issues. I think you can tune a gun to do pretty good. Okay. I think Knight's Armament figured out how to seal their gas ports pretty good and their gas blocks, right? Okay, cool. I think other manufacturers figured out how to do good pistons. Okay, if you want to move away from strict direct impingement. I think it's time to get the silencers caught up to the guns. I think it's time to do it in a way that the guns have to worry less about the silencers. I think getting the flow rate super high and the suppression super great is still the holy grail. I think, you can argue with me about that? You can argue? Dude, you still have folks from major silencer companies just overboring silencers to get back pressure down and then drilling holes in traditional baffle stacks. Do not act like that's not happening still. The industry as a whole has a long way to go. Okay? Come on. We're not talking about one or two companies leading the way. Because if you say that, you can get in trouble. You know what I mean? Like what? You want to look at like who sells the most silencers and look what they're doing. Well, they're trying to catch up. So that means the whole industry is trying to catch up. So look, you want to look at the bleeding edge? Look, let's be real. Let's be real. Look at the bleeding edge. The bleeding edge of innovation in silencer technology right now. How far is there to go? Well, what did I tell you last week? I talked about this last week on the long Huxworks episode. What did I say? Look closely at the hybrid technologies we've been characterizing. Look at flow through from Huxworks 2. I know there's other stuff too. I know Pew Science hasn't tested everything. I'm not pretending we have. Okay, but I would say right now, surge bypass and the other CAT technologies, I think the PIP from PTR, I think flow through from Huxworks, I think from all those, I think those three major things, I think they make for some very interesting potential. I think it's an F1 race right now. I was actually thinking, and look, this is just daydreaming really. I was thinking the other day, what if Huxworks decided to go hybrid And then they used the early stage of the flow-through tech and made the mid-stage have PIP in it. Oh my God. So they still had like high enough pressure to saturate certain portion of the PIP. Dude, think about it. No, seriously. Like, that would be so cool. But then I was also thinking here, and now here's another thing. Now, this is going to blow your mind, right? This blew my mind. Because then I got to thinking, I was like, well, PIP is able to do well even with low pressure applications. So you could just make the whole thing out of PIP. Imagine a flow-through PIP silencer. What if you printed some of the flow paths out of PIP lattice in a Flow 556 Ti? And look, you can't just do that. You have to do it right. You have to do it intelligently in certain regions. You could potentially do something clinically insane. So, when you ask me the question, can we gain more from host development or silencer development? Guys, there's a long way to go in silencer development. And this is just some like off-the-cuff examples of tech that already exists, dude. Think bigger than that with the same principles of heat transfer and turbulence and flow path contact, guys. I think before long, you're going to see we haven't touched the limits of certain things. It's an exciting time in silencers. And if you're listening to this podcast, you are on the bleeding edge of characterization. There simply are not other people looking at this detail and cataloging it in real time. You are, I guarantee you, if you're listening to this, you know the most. If you're keeping up with the research, you're at the well, okay, I'm gonna use a cliche that sounds stupid. You're at the tip of the spear. Oh, he's cringe. He's at the tip of the spear. Footwork. No, what do they say? What's the Navy SEAL thing? Anyway, it's like, I don't know. There's some cliche that's like those like influencers say. Could you imagine thinking that a straight cone baffle tubeless silencer was the pinnacle of innovation and that the pressure field or sound like didn't matter? Imagine thinking that in 2024. If people are thinking that in 2024, bless their hearts, man. I just had to say that. We're not even like some people think silencers are done and they're like, oh, sound doesn't matter. We're done. We already know how the silencers work. Oh, really? Can you publish your research that showed that conclusions and share it with the class? Because it would save us a lot of time if you know that answer. I will say that they're lying because it's not true. Thank you for the question. Question 537, sub-question 35. Does Pew Science intend to characterize supersonic 300 blackout performance? Thank you for the question, sir. Man, we actually already have done that for certain silencers. That's a good question. Thank you. No one has asked that in a while. Let me tell you something real quick about supersonic 300 blackout from the 8-inch barrel mini fix, my friend. The unsuppressed testing was not fun. That is teeth rattling for the shooter. Just FYI, think about unsuppressed Mark 18, which is a 10.3-inch 5.56. Yes? Okay, cool. Now think 2.5 inches shorter. Okay? Supersonic 300 blackout, which is now an intermediate rifle cartridge. Remember, subsonic 300 blackout is a pistol cartridge. Supersonic 300 blackout is an intermediate rifle cartridge. Yeah. Unsuppressed 300 blackout is basically unsuppressed 5.56 from the shorter barrel in our test setup. It sucks. Now, let me tell you something. I remember we did an internal test program with the full Nelson from Q and the Hyperion from CGS on the mini fix and to see how they reacted from supersonic 300 blackout from the 8-inch barrel mini fix. Okay? Bolt gun. Spoiler alert. The Hyperion walked all over the full Nelson. It was not close. Okay? If you looked at subsonic 300 blackout, you might be surprised because subsonic, they're neck and neck. They're basically almost the same in hearing damage risk. In supersonic, the Q silencer technology is too primitive to properly deal with super high pressure. It's too primitive for that. And we figured that out already. You know that. That shouldn't be a surprise to you, but so that should be what you expect. And that's a very topical point to make here, given research cartridge recent cartridge development in the news in the firearms industry right now. Just foreshadowing, okay? So this technical point I just made, it's not new, it's not controversial to folks that have been following the research. So we've known it for a very long time. So are we going to move into 300 supers with a standard host and publication? Well, I mean, we could, but we already have Supersonic 5.56 out of 10.3. And so would you want to do it? Like, okay, I would say if you want to do Supersonic 300 blackout, you probably want to do a semi-auto 300 platform. You don't want to do like bolt action, like Supersonic 300 blackout. Like, really? So we have a 6.75 inch SIG MCX. There's that 338 ARC, but that doesn't really work as well for our current data set because you can't use the 30 caliber silencers. So that sucks. Maybe we do the MCX. Yeah, that would be cool. I just can't see wanting to do a Supersonic 300 blackout bolt gun. To me, if you're gonna do that, like you're just gonna use another cartridge. Like who's gonna use Supersonic 300 blackout of a bolt gun? Is that something you do? Like, and I'll say another thing really quick. Just look, I'm not trying to throw shade, but I just want to be realistic. Supersonic 300 blackout is weird because it's probably better than 5.56 for killing stuff in some ways, but we also have 7.62 by 39. Right? What? So what? If you want to test supersonic semi-auto, wouldn't we just do like, and you're going to do 7.62 or 30 caliber and be intermediate rifle cartridges instead of the full size rifle cartridges like 308? Wouldn't you like just do an AK? Wouldn't AK make more sense? I don't know. AK guys are weird. I don't know. I say that with love, but see what I mean? See why Supersonic 300 blackout has always been kind of weird because it's cool. It's like, what? We also have 7.62 by 39. So it's like, so then if we started doing AK, it'd be like almost like superfluous in some ways. Maybe if we did bolt and semi-auto, you'd get both and you'd like that. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. I don't have a good answer other than like there's other stuff to do. I just wanted to just talk through it. 1 second. How we doing on time, guys? Oh my God. Okay. We're an hour and a half in. Shoot. How many more do I want to do? Oh my God. Okay, we'll go. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Question 538, sub-question 36. Will 50 cal testing become part of the test spectrum? Oh my God. Okay, I'm going to answer this easily. For military and government customers, yes. Different test setup though. Okay? And this is like, okay. Do I say this? Okay. There's not a real reason in my mind to test a 50 caliber system at mil standard height. Is that fair to say? Am I going to get in trouble saying that? Those weapons are almost always shot on the ground, right? And I think you need to instrument it differently because you need more points for personnel hazards because the loads are really high. And I think a lot of these silencers use brakes. And I think to get a good picture of the pressure field, you're going to have to do more than just that muzzle and ear mil standard testing. Because I'm answering your question, sir or ma'am, specifically. We could certainly include this testing in the silencer sound standard, but what I would do, I would put it in a different part of the ranking section because it's a different test condition. I don't think it would be apples to apples because I think, and that could happen, but it's just the utility for people in the military and the SWAT team or whatever who's using 50 cals, it's high, but not for consumers. There's just not enough consumers using these guys. I just don't think, and you're going to be using hearing protection too. Do not shoot your 50 caliber without PPE. You wild people, you guys. Now, if I'm wrong, let me know. If I'm wrong, if I'm somehow like off base, like you're moving into like anti-materiel, like munitions. So I know it's still a small arm, but like remember, this is testing suppressed small arm weapon systems. This is like the thrust of this data set. And although we can do this, I mean, we can, guys, we'll test like against breaching charges and like, we come from the blast community, right? So we're pretty familiar with energetic events that are much more significant than small arms. Okay, so we can do anything, but for this research on this standard, like we don't do missiles yet. Question 539, sub question 37. Is 6mm arc or other 6mm, 6.5mm loading testing upcoming? Gas gun or bolt gun? Great question. Glad you asked it. We have done 6mm arc gas gun testing already. We've actually done quite a bit. You haven't seen any of it, but we've done quite a bit internally. And our conclusion right now is that we don't feel the platform's mature enough for us, for Pew Science, for permanent data publications on our website that folks will reference for years to come. We do not think it's mature enough yet. And we have made the decision unilaterally to say that. We control our publications, and we do not believe it's ready. And until it is, then it will not be on the website. Okay? It's too new. It's not mature. Folks have not standardized the systems, and we do not want to start down a road that's going to be irrelevant. Let me give you an example that you may have forgotten. Remember, we had a contract once to do a 6.5 Creedmoor test on a bolt gun, and then we did that and we published it, and then we don't have that host weapon anymore, and now there's only one test on the website, and it's like, is it okay peg point, but is that useful to you? I would rather not waste time. It is very expensive. It is very expensive to do that. Okay, so I want to get the research progression solid in several areas in parallel like we have been doing, so we can continue to learn things. And I don't want to go off on side quests that are going to derail stuff with cartridges that are not mature. Okay, now, that being said, caveat, I don't know, what if like this 338 ARC thing becomes like everyone's favorite Huckleberry? I don't know. Maybe they'll standardize it faster, but we're not going to just pick a gun without no experience. That's crazy. You know how long it took to pick the Mark 18? What, we're conservative. That's okay. Sorry. We take risks too. Look at what we're able to accomplish this quarter so far. Incredible, right? October was nuts and everything fit, but and this is a good thing to think about. Everything really fit well in the pedigree. So let's be somewhat conservative here with the type of technologies we're evaluating and on what platforms, okay? That's my conservative answer. I want to be conservative. Hasn't steered us wrong yet. It's better to be conservative than go rogue and break everything. Here for the long game. What do they say? Like, oh, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. No, we're here for a long time and a good time. Does that make us weird? Question 540, sub-question 38. 6.5 Creedmoor data, please, Jay. Please, with a PLZ. Why do you want this? Is it because you feel the answers will be drastically different than 308? Like if you use a 6.5 silencer, the blast load propagation could be less because of the restricted orifice. That's true. It'll be quieter. That's potentially true. Not always. I'll have to buy a 6.5 Creedmoor. Do I have a 6.5 Creedmoor barrel for my fix? I think I have a Bartling barrel for that. I do. I do have a 6.5 Creedmoor Bartling barrel for my fix. I haven't installed it. I should do that. I like that gun. It's light. Question 541, sub-question 39. Best everyday carry for the gym, and why is it a Mark 23? The PPK was on my list, dude. I know who asked this. He's my friend in the firearms industry. He also shoots. He has a Mark 23. He's cool. Hope you're doing. I haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing okay. The PPK was on my list for the gym. I'm gonna have to go Mark 23 now. No, in all honesty, here's what I carry an FN 509 compact tactical in a fanny pack every day. And I put that fanny pack in my gym bag. Usually, like if I'm in the gym, That's usually my carry. 9 times out of 10. That PPK is so small, dude. What a great little gun, bro. I want to get that working. You know, I have a leather Mark 23 outside the waistband holster. I got it off like Amazon or something. It's so ridiculous. I should carry that like that. Like at 4 o'clock, how I carry my outside the waistband guns usually. I like carrying guns like that, like at 4 o'clock position. It's comfortable for me, the way I drive and like the way I walk and way I dress. Like I can put a gun at 4 o'clock outside the waistband, and I can sit in my truck driving, and it doesn't bother me, which is like a good test. Like, and of course, it doesn't bother you walking. It doesn't bother you sitting down. Like appendix carry sometimes can bother me sitting down with like a Mark 23. I have the thigh holsters for the Mark 23. The ones that LBT makes, they're cool. I have several of them. I have different camo patterns. I have the black one. Anyway, hope you're doing okay, sir. The Mark 23 is actually good for a gym carry because you're already like primed for a lot of force generation, so you can stabilize the pistol with silencer at the same time. You should probably carry it with the silencer in the gym. Let's do one more question. Hour and 35 minutes? Yeah, we can go. One more question. Okay, last question. Question 542, sub-question 40. Why are piston gas blocks always vented? Piston guns would be great silencer hosts if they weren't vented. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. Okay. Well, sir, thank you for the question. If you want your piston gun to keep working, you're going to have to let it vent. Why can't we not vent? Well, do you want to blow it up? No. You can't just apply a huge overpressure load to a closed cavity with a piston expected to not vent, and then, like, where's the gas going to go, dude? You're pressurizing the closed system, and you want to use the piston? Yeah, okay. How do I explain this? Like, you don't use the entire gas pulse, right? So you just, okay, let's talk about impulse for a second. Gas momentum transfer potential. You're used to me talking about that in figure 2 of the article, right? That's external. Let's talk about internal impulse. Same concept measured in different spot. You need area under your pressure curve. Yes, impulse. You need a certain impulse to actuate that piston. Now, I am not a small arms weapon designer, but I would guess that by venting out of the different blocks, you're going to maintain high reliability. You blow out the debris. You don't foul the system over long periods of time. Or long periods of fire, rather, like long strings of fire. You reduce heat buildup. If you blow the hot gases into the system and there's nowhere to go, you condense that vapor for long enough, and that part has to move. If you don't vent it, you have a tremendous amount of impulse. If you don't vent, you have to vent. You get a tremendous amount of impulse, because there's no. I guess you could vent it somewhere else. Maybe you're going to seize everything up if you condense the vapor. Oh, you know what? Yeah. So you need the load for momentum transfer and the reliability of the system. That's probably my guess, sir, for the two major reasons now. But to your point, now you could think outside the box and you could just eliminate the problem of the piston vent being loud by, it's complicated, but you could just like vent into a silencer. Okay. Just make another silencer for the vent. Make a vent silencer. Why not? It's different. Why not? There's no rule that says you can't, bro. What about a SCAR? You know, it has a gas plug in the front. Why not build a silencer to that and clamp it to the barrel? Think about it. FN is like listening to this. Hey, shout out to FN. Excuse me. Shout out to FN. Long time corporate peace sign supporter. But they're probably listening to this and they're like, oh my God, don't give them any ideas. Could you imagine? Sir, not only have you voided your warranty on your SCAR, you seem to have welded a silencer to the gas plug. They're like, I'm not mad. I'm impressed. It's like that Will Ferrell on Anchorman. Okay, I'm not running out of gas. We're going to go ahead and highlight that row, and that we're going to conclude listener questions. That's 542 questions. That's nuts. Save, spreadsheet, close. Okay, well, thank you guys and girls. Thank you for listening. I know this was like, we took a little break this week. I hope this was fun and informative. I hope you got something out of it. We're going to be back next week with more data and analysis, probably. Okay. If you can, go deer hunting. It's deer season. It's awesome. Stay safe out there, friends. Let me know if you get a PPK, and let me know if you get light strikes. I will keep you updated with this saga, okay? I will talk with you folks again soon. Okay, bye.